I forget what Stella had said. Stella had said something really brilliant.
What you did? Stella said
Astro
brilliant.
Tarot and tea version.
It was Astro Brunch.
Astro brunch.
Ah, that was right. Yeah, the Astro brunch.
Okay.
Oh, we didn't get alcohol. Oh,
damn it.
We were gonna drink.
We were gonna drink.
It's all good.
Oh my God.
And welcome to AstroDivaz. I'm Nikki Stone.
And I'm Mitzi Peterbilt. And today we've got a special guest. We're really excited to bring Stella Boheme, the Queen of Glam Tarot. Stella is a drag queen, just like us, and she's also a tarot reader. And she has some very keen insight. We're really excited about this episode. We're going to be talking about the creative process. We're going to be talking about collective healing and all things dishy about our charts.
Stella, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, so Queen of Glam Tarot is now officially coming up upon a year anniversary. It'll be a year this October 31st, and it just seemed to work. People found the drag element alluring, approachable, and it's like the drag element allowed tarot to all of a sudden be accessible, and it was non-threatening because it was coming from this over-the-top, glamorous, not all the time woo-woo, talking about the chakras and everything up here. It talked to people in a very real manner, and especially when it comes to things that are difficult subjects. Many of my clientele, much like myself, they're overworkers. And I straight up tell them, you are taking on a lot of burden. We call that the 10 of Wands moment. You're taking on so much burden, you're forgetting to receive, you're forgetting to rest. And because people expect that brutal honesty in drag, it makes the tarot and the message and the advice from the tarot it just helps it land better with my clientele, I've come to discover. And especially with my two specialties, which are love, relationship, and work and finances and money, like getting to those hard answers allows me to say this is what it is, and they expect the quasi bitchiness to come from the queen, so they're willing to accept that brutal honesty.
Wow. Did you so you noticed that when you were in drag? Did you notice any difference of that when you were, because you've been reading for a while, so did you notice any difference when you weren't painted? Have you had opportunity, since you've been doing Queen of Glam, to go in as your male presenting persona, and if there's a difference in that, what is it for you?
So first and foremost, personally, internally, when I'm in drag, I'm automatically in my performance mode. And that's the element of tarot reading that I love as well, is the performance, the delivering things with the one-liner and the little bit of a zing to it. And I find that being in drag, people approach me a little bit more readily. Being male presenting in tarot reading, which is primarily female presenting because, of just gender roles, that women are much more intuitive and much more spiritual and men are much more logical. It made it easier for me to attract clientele. And trying to do drag by itself or trying to do just tarot by itself, it's like I only got there 35 to 20 to 50% of the time. Of the goals that I wanted to, including the money that I wanted to bring in, the clientele that I wanted to have, the venues where I wanted to go. And it is really, truly the combination of the two that have allowed me to have the success that I've had for this year that I never thought was possible.
That's beautiful.
I'm really hearing you say that being able to tap into the creativity that you use for drag has allowed you to expand into this other part of your life where you were already trying to make money.
I saw you pulling some cards earlier, so you're gonna do a little reading for us today, and it's okay if you read, because that's what we're all about.
I mean, would you expect anything less? I put the T in tarot today.
Ooh, the T in tarot. Okay.
We all certainly did not paint our faces to not read each other.
This was not about scones and tea today, just the tea. So, what's really exciting for us about astrology is how it informs our creative process. And we wanted to talk a little bit about that today. And specifically, because here we are, we're all three drag queens and we're doing what we do. We found a way to merge our artistic lives and our spiritual lives and all of those things into one package. So we just wanted to take a little bit of time today and talk about that and have a little conversation about why drag. You know, why is drag an accessory or an access point in this thing that we do, that's spirituality?
It's such a wonderful both and of externally, I have clientels, I'm booked at venues, I'm making the money that I want, and internally I'm finding the fulfillment in both that I never had when they were separate. And it also just, it's something that I do. I just magically I'm able to combine two things and magically create something to happen. And it just seems to work in life, like, you know, opera and drag for a while, and then now drag and tarot, and taking two things that seem so opposite, mashing them together to create a fun new facet, a fun new face, and the success that goes along with it.
It's interesting that you bring that up because that is your background. You're a trained opera performer. So you performance didn't start with drag for you. How do you notice, like, let's go a little bit deeper into creative process and that process of becoming Stella. And one of the things that we do at Activate Your Access is support people in having a healthy conversation with their inner critic, because that is a part of the creative process. It is going to come with you. So how, you know, you have your history of opera, and then you have your history of drag, and then you have what you moved into with tarot. So how has that inner critic conversation evolved for you through those various incarnations of your creativity?
Oh, wow. So I tell people that everything I did, every mistake I made in opera allowed me to avoid or confront it in drag. So in opera, I was afraid to network and say exactly what I was able to do. Whereas in drag, I said, okay, I get to learn to ask the question and say, hey, can I perform for you? Even though I don't have experience, hey, can I perform? And for me, everything was a lesson that propelled me into the next lesson. So starting with opera, all those mistakes that I made allowed me to grow and build up myself as Stella Boheme, which is going on 10 years of performance now in drag. And now everything I learned from success, from Stella Boheme, for 10 years of Stella Boheme, I'm now applying to tarot. How do I put my own spin on things? How do I separate myself out from the crowd? How do I allow myself to shine? And now, especially with tarot, how do I get more bang for my buck? How do I step into asking, this is what I'm worth, and this is what I'm asking, and finding that people say yes more often than they say no. So for me, the creative process, it's so much just like putting a face on. I have my process and allowing myself to make mistakes and say, well, that didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. My eyebrows are distant cousins right now, and that's perfectly okay. You know, remember the whole thing that we say about our eyebrows. Remember, your eyebrows are sisters, not twins. Sometimes they're not even in the same family, and that is okay. People see what they want to see. And it's not my job to it's not my job to dictate that. It's my job to facilitate that. So they get to have their experience and I get to just be the catalyst for it.
I love how this sounds because you know me, I love charts. And I'm kind of looking over your chart while you're talking. And it just sounds like a very beautiful expression of your north and south node. Are you willing to allow me to like verbally share some things about your chart so we can talk into that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. And if you could just confirm for me, I know sometimes you forget because you're more tarot minded and we're a little bit more astrology minded, but you have your sun in Gemini in your 12th house.
Mm-hmm.
You have your moon in Capricorn in the 7th house.
Mm-hmm.
And then your ascendant is in Cancer. And then your north node, south node axis is north node in Leo, 2nd house, south node in Aquarius, 8th house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And as you're speaking into all of this, I can clearly see you're using your talents, you're using your money, know it stuff in that Capricorn moon, plugging it into your 2nd house of money, where your Leo north node exists. And I can see how that would be very easy for you to just be able to be this big personality. That's kind of what Leo's all about. And plug that into your more emotional pieces of yourself, your more driven pieces of yourself in the Capricorn. And then, of course, that interaction with people in the Gemini side of it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you put it in that way, because what I love about your work, both you and Mitzi, is that you make astrology accessible. You do the work, but also make it accessible for somebody like me who I've tried to learn and it doesn't always resonate with me. So you say it in a way that I'm like, okay, no, that now makes sense.
Thank you for that feedback.
Yeah. So golf claps.
Well, you said it at the beginning of the interview, but what drag does for tarot in making it accessible, taking it out of the land of the woo-woo so much. I mean, we can be woo-woo, but when it gets into, we're dealing with personalities, and that's why it works for us also to do drag, because personality is a separate layer. It's a separate thing on top. And it's, it's like changing the volume on your microphone. You can turn up your personality and you can dial it down. And it takes self-awareness to be able to gauge that. And that's the beautiful thing about astrology, is if you're sitting in your south node, your personality is likely going to show up and act out more. And I'm guessing for you, Stella, with that Aquarius South Node. Tell me if this sounds familiar. I have the same South Node as you, so yeah. I'll tell you how it operates for me, and then you can give me your interpretation of that. When I'm burned out, my self-awareness goes out the window, and I'm just falling on my default programs. I blame society for everything that I'm not doing.
Absolutely. I'm a victim of my circumstance. Yeah, absolutely.
The way that it works for me in my creative process, I also do stand-up comedy, and I know what it takes for me to be able to show up relaxed with a mic in my hand and not take my own comedy personally. And so that requires, actually, because I'm a Virgo, rehearsal. I have to rehearse it. I have to do the repetition. And my South Node will constantly look at how other people are doing it and look at what society says about the kind of comedy that I want to do. And I'm not moving up to finding my light as a Leo.
Yeah.
And does that sound familiar to you?
It sounds so familiar because it's a conversation I have about money and work all of the time, that I should have it figured out by now at the tender young age of 40. I should have my house. I should have my, and it's like the South Node is saying, let's shit all over your stuff, rather than saying success is success. And what do you have right now? You have a job, a day job that you're able to work enough to support yourself, and something that I've been able to experience with the tarot now is that it supplements my income and actually pays for things. It's not just a little money I squirrel away to pay for Starbucks every week. I make enough money that it supplements my bills and it supplements my income to a point where I'm able to sustain myself and also invest in the future.
That's beautiful.
Beautiful.
It really is. I mean, that's what we want as creatives.
Mm-hmm.
We want to earn a living from our creativity. And we're told by society that, and here this is probably again my Aquarius South Node talking, but we're told by society that if you're going to be a creative, you better go get a day job. And we're starting to heal this as a collective. We're saying, you know, this is the beauty of the digital world. You know, there are kids that aren't even out of grade school that are monetizing their creativity. That whole conversation is going away. That you can be creative,
Absolutely.
that you can't sustain yourself. So it's beautiful, Stella, that you're able to do that. It's really, congratulations.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, I feel too that the conversation changing to making money on a creative level is only reserved for the celebrities, the actors and the singers and the American Idol winners and the RuPaul's Drag Race winners, and that we see that as like the pinnacle, but at the same time saying, you know, I'm successful bringing in extra money to pay bills. I'm successful bringing in extra money to have enough left over to buy a new outfit or to buy a new gown. I'm successful in creating something that is viable, and I can use Etsy, I can use Instagram, I can use all of the free, wonderful tools that are out there for my own benefit. And I feel it's such an exciting time to be a creative and a spiritual creative at the same time, as everything just shifting the way it's around, it's shifting.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Speaking of shifting, so we've been talking a lot about you and a lot about we will get into us too, because we're going to tie astrology into tarot a little bit later on, and you're going to tell us a little bit more about ourselves since we're telling you so much about you. But I am curious as well, how do you see tarot affecting your clients? Do you see something similar to what we see when we do astrology, where there's a little bit more self-awareness, or is there a difference in what your clients experience from your readings?
I feel that there is a self-awareness, especially with tarot and myself being not just a tarot reader, but a claircognizant, just knowing things that I would otherwise have no way of knowing. I feel that people find they can't hide from it, and that with the cards in front of me, I'm going to lay bare exactly what you are doing that's working, but where you might need a little extra boost. A classic one that I like to see is people who are overworking themselves and take on everything. People who are, and you know, of course, just like with the astrological chart, the way I read, there's layers. I don't just say this is what's presented in front of me. I go underneath it, like where did that come from? You could have two people, like the two of you might pull the same card, which will have the similar meaning, but underneath it all, it could be what drives it. And 9 times out of 10, I won't say 9 times out of 10, it's actually more like 10 times out of 10, people have just said, this is so spot on. And I'm like, of course it is, because one, I pick up what you're putting down. You're giving me some energy, and if you want to hide something, you can hide it, but you can't hide it from me, especially when the cards are saying to me, you need to become aware of this so that you will have a better life. My motto, you know, my main motto with Queen of Glam Tarot, let me fix my teeth, excuse me. Queen of Glam Tarot, yeah, put the uppers back in, okay. But my motto is to uplift and to empower my clients. And that might mean we go through the muck, but at the end of it, you're going to have hope and empowerment to say, yes, I get to make this shift. So it's almost like same tune, different music.
That is such a powerful 12th house conversation that you're having.
Yeah.
Like so many people see 12th house shit and they're like, and they're scared of it because it's like the end of the cycle. But it's also very intuitive. It's very like, and that's your sun. So that's your soul of who you are, showing up for other people and helping them to uncover the hidden things in their lives. And it's just, I could not think of a more beautiful way to use a 12th house sun.
Yeah, and people love the way I present it to them because it's not scary. It's not end of cycle. I literally tell people the world, if we want to go there, that's like a world conversation, which is the 21st card in the major arcana. That's the end of the journey, but the world has a dancer on it, and the cycle has to end so that the next one can begin. It's not about, oh, everything's done, I'm done with it now. No, that one little part ended so that you can go off into the next thing with greater knowledge. And I tell people that anymore, it's not so much a circle as much as it is a spiral. That the spiral goes up or down, it's your choice. But cycles are not about circles. They're about, am I moving up in a spiral or am I moving down in a spiral? And the choice is always up to you and to where we go with that.
That's beautiful. What was coming to me when you were talking about that is you also can't hide from a Gemini. Geminis are very, very perceptive.
The true story. It's a very true story.
So, how were you planning on, did you have a plan on how we're tying astrology and tarot together?
Yeah, so the thing is I feel that for somebody like me who is much more card minded, and for people who in the audience are much more connected to tarot but wanting to learn a lot more about astrology, you can actually do both. And it's such a wonderful thing to be able to do both. Now, a lot of card readers, a lot of podcasters say, well, it's this and this energy, making that connection. But to start with, you can always do the big 12. And I have with me the 12 cards that represent the different signs of the zodiac. I'm going to lean on you guys because after I get past the first 4, I forget what the sequence is. So please help me out there. But it's like, if you want to start doing work with, say you have your chart, you have all your information that you've received from Mitzi and from Nikki, and you want to start putting it into the tarot practice, you start with the 12 cards. So we're going to start with the Emperor. Emperor's Aries energy. So what is the Emperor about? He might be mature, but he's fiery. He will see things through to the very end. He is stubborn as all get out. And that's the Emperor energy. That is the Aries energy. Moving along, we now have the Hierophant, which is Taurus. The know-it-all. The my way or the highway. But also the one.
We said we were spilling tea.
But also one that says, look, you may not be aware of it, but I actually do know the steps up. I actually know, but we have to do this within a little bit of structure, which is what the Hierophant's about. Structure, corporation, classically it used to be called the Pope. Now, my card, Gemini, the Lovers. The duality of things, just being free and open-hearted and a little frivolous and a little fickle. From there, Cancer, which is the Chariot. Everything all contained, everything's on a move, but you still have this carriage that's all contained, that you still contain yourself in, that, people want to ride, they got to be nice, but always on the move, going with the currents. Now, next we have Leo, which is Strength. Now, in this case, in this deck, it's the Lamb, but you can see her face is, very much about to turn into a lion. Determination, grit, staying power, ferocious, especially when it comes to messing with their pride. Now, what's after Leo? Virgo, yes?
Yes.
Ah, the Hermit. Introspective. Wants to just take time for themselves, figure themselves out, go inward, go on the inward journey. And then we move on to Libra, Justice. the ability to balance things, being able to weigh things, being still enough and taking your emotions out of it so that you can see things for what they really are. What's after Libra?
Sagittarius, Scorpio.
No, Scorpio.
Yeah.
I always forget.
Not a lot, now, a lot of Scorpios are gonna, the Scorpios are either gonna love this or hate this, but that's the death card. Within that, they hold the power, literally, Scorpions hold the power of life or death in their tail, in their stingers.
Mm-hmm.
And part of death rebirth is the responsibility to say what needs to be, what needs to go. Yeah. What can I let go? What can I let go of that's all about, it just doesn't work anymore. After that is
Sagittarius.
Temperance. Being able to see things longer term, being able to not go back and forth between opposites, but find that middle ground. Temperance is all about finding the middle ground, finding the alchemy of combining two things like Dragon Tarot and making it work, and finding that the two combined augment and enhance each other, not sell each other short. All right, so for the next one, I'm going to apologize. Again, they may not enjoy this, but what's the next sign?
Capricorn. Crapicorn is what we sometimes call it.
They're the devil. Sometimes manipulative. I mean, I don't know about you, but if this devil came up to me, I might fall for him. He's a sexy man.
He's very enrolling.
Yeah, he's incredibly enrolling. But this also goes back to responsibility. Where do I hold myself back? How do I chain myself down? And asking that question and being brave enough to ask the question to say that things that hold me back oftentimes are of my own making, and I can break that cycle. I can get out of that. It just takes the strength and the fortitude to make that happen. Now we're down to our last two, my darlings. What's next?
Aquarius.
Yes, the star, dreamers. Oh, eternal dreamers, always looking to the stars, always looking upwards for inspiration. And sometimes their heads are a little too much in the clouds. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, we've got Pisces, which is the moon. Trusting the unseen forces, but also being sure that you're not aloof and not so connected to the spiritual energy you forget to be here. So for anybody who wants to get into astrology, start with those cards and use that as a way to plot your own. You were talking about the North Node and the South Node. Well, now that I have a further understanding of it, we call that the top and the bottom card of the deck. It's also the shadow side. So the South Node would be the shadow side. What's on the bottom of the deck that you need to pay attention to? So think about, I'm sorry, what did you say my South Node was?
Aquarius,
which was, where'd you go?
The star.
So as a South Node, if I pulled the star out, if I'm doing a reading and I'm saying, okay, the star is on the bottom of the deck, on the shadow side of the deck, what does that mean? Prone to depression because I don't dream, or I think my dreams are too big. Prone to blame everybody else, prone to say no. I like to say that sometimes the star when it's untransformed, when it's in its shadow side, disengaging and just dreaming about the way things should be, as opposed to how they really are and how I have an effect on them. But just completely disengaging and saying, I'm just going to dream about how I want them to be and live in that fantasy rather than what's around me, what's actually happening in front of me. So start with those cards. Put them in your chart.
Do me.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you said that, because I tell you what, since we're talking so much about my chart, why don't we do some readings for you with the with my cards here?
Oh, that would be great.
All right, let's start with you now, Nikki. What's pressing on your mind right now? Like, what are you curious about? What would you like to know a little bit more about? Or if you want to ask me something about one of the planets in your chart, how can you?
Well, I think it's fitting because I feel like I'm going through a big transformation around career. And I feel the pressing energy of it, and I can't get anything going. Right now, I'm blaming Saturn on that because Saturn's in Aquarius right now, and that puts it in my 10th house of career. And my 10th house is Aquarius, so it's ruled by Saturn, but it still feels like a really sticky placement. It feels like Saturn, I want to get something going, and Saturn keeps saying, but you have to do this first, and then you have to do that, and then you have to, so I can't get anything rolling, even once it went direct, because Saturn's been direct for like 2 weeks now, and I'm still feeling like I feel this push to change things, and I can't do anything about it.
Okay. So I'm going to pull 3 cards for you. What I'm hearing, what I like to do, first and foremost, the first card is going to give me a little bit of insight as to where you are right now. The second card is going to be a little bit more along the lines of what steps can you take? And the third card is going to be what is a possible outcome? I do this sometimes with 9 cards as well, where 3 cards are where you are, 3 cards are what steps you can take, 3 cards are going to be the possible future. But for the sake of time, we'll keep it simple. First card, where are you at right now? It's the 3 of Swords. Now, the 3 of Swords, in the typical writer way, would have a sword floating in the air with 3 sword, like a heart through stab through with 3 swords. To me, that says that you're reliving some things. There's something there that you continue to relive to hold yourself back, and I like to say that when the 3 of Swords comes up, it's often saying, so whatever it is that you're reliving, whatever the past that you're reliving, you're living it by telling the story and continuing to tell the story. And as we like to say in transformational work, the story lives in the telling. So how are you telling yourself a story of this is what it should be, this is where I want to go, this is what I want to have happen, and then skewering it like a shish kebab?
Right there,
now,
I definitely. Oh,
go ahead. No, I love the conversation.
I definitely know that there's I have a lot of self-fulfilling prophecies that I've had since I was very, very young. So it's been a lot of work to break a lot of them. So when I tell myself those things, it's like in the back of my mind is where I would feel more of that 3 of Swords energy of like, you can't do this because of that, you can't do this because of that sort of thing.
Yeah. So the thing about it is that what are some steps you can take to move forward? We've got the moon. So the moon to me is saying, right now you are not meant to actually take action. You've done what you needed to do. And now there are forces that are under the current, under the surface at work here that are going to support you in this. So it's like you've done what you needed to do. Now allowing that cycle, allowing that wheel that we like to call the world come to you. It's kind of like you were here and it went over and now it's coming back to you, but it's out of your reach right now. And that's exactly the way it's supposed to be. Right now, you're being taught a lesson of receiving and trusting that the universe will deliver what you want to you and deliver the exact opportunity. Possible outcome. And I feel like this is going to be not so much a future thing, but also just a warning that when that comes about, we're going to have what's called the 5 of Swords moment. Now, the 5 of Swords, to me, I like this card because you'll notice down here, we have this guy who's like, yeah, woohoo, go me. And then the person in the foreground like saying, what the hell just happened? This is the card that says winning at all costs. And I feel like this is saying, look, you taking the opportunity to grow yourself, to build yourself, to change the career that you want to change it into for your own happiness is not going to rob somebody else of their happiness. In fact, if they are robbed of their happiness because of something you did, that is not on you. And this is saying winning at all costs. You could try to drive and force things, and you would probably make it happen, but at what cost? I mean, how would you alienate people because of it? Would you push people away because of it? So I feel like taking action on it now, while it would create the results you want, would get you in a situation of like, well, okay, I did all the wheeling and dealing and all of that, but now what? It feels like an empty victory. Yeah, I feel like that would be a very empty victory for you. So the pattern that you're in right now, especially with the planets saying, no, take care of this first, it's literally where you're meant to be, because things are out there that are going to come to you that are the exact perfect opportunity. right now you're doing the cleanup work so that you can welcome it in.
That
Super
is
powerful.
just so perfect for what the last like even year of my life has felt like. Just learning, because the moon was also Pisces, and that's where my north node is. So learning how to be in that trusting, forgiving, surrendering place of my north node, as opposed to the more shadow side of it, where what would you say more of the shadow side of the moon is?
The shadow side of the moon, I'd say, would be listlessness. I also feel like it's, oh gosh, so shadow side of the moon would be distrust, distrusting in the dark, distrusting in what's around you that's there to support you. But I think the extreme of that, because shadow side reversals, whatever you want to call it, can mean either it's not far enough or it's too far into it. So the other side of it would just be reckless abandon, howling at the moon, reckless abandon, pure on, you know.
Yeah. And
carnal.
all of that has been like right under the surface. Like, that's what I want to do. I just want to say, fuck it all. just do what I need to do to get shit done. And like, but again, something is holding me back from doing that. So this is giving me a lot of like, what's the word?
Clarity.
Yeah. Oh, it's clarity around like, I'm trusting myself in the right way. Like, I know this is what I want to do. And I also know that's not going to benefit me in the future. So I get to continue to do the thing that I know will eventually benefit me, as opposed to the thing that's right there on top of me with that Mars energy that's also getting activated this year, trying to get shit done. Like, I can't use Mars this year, even though it's my year to use Mars. And it's frustrating, but I trust, and I can trust, and I feel even more so that I can trust that it's going to give me what I want eventually, even if it's
I
not
feel
tomorrow.
too, the moon speaks into responsibility. So maybe it's the year to learn how to use Mars energy in a responsible manner. So beautiful. Shall we do one for you as well, Mitzi?
Sure, but I wanted to make a comment to Nikki around that. I'm loving this reading that you got the moon as your middle card, because I'm constantly feeling, and I've said to you before, you need to move towards your north node. You need to move into that Pisces energy of trust and honoring the mystery. So,
Okay,
yay.
Capricorn.
What?
Okay, Capricorn, you just want me to do the work.
Don't project your Saturn onto me. And yes, that's
you keep that Saturn to yourself, Missy.
You keep your Saturn to yourself.
Thank you.
All right,
I do appreciate that.
Of
course. So, Miss Mitzi, tell me what's on your mind. What can we gain some clarity on for you?
Oh my goodness, I've been doing a lot of like way back work, like ancestral work, and something that's a theme that keeps coming up for me is don't be too big, don't be too bold, it's dangerous. And an example of this is what's going on right now, regardless of what side you take with this issue, with Dave Chappelle. And that whole conversation of, and again, I know this is my south node, and that Aquarian Saturn is right there on my south node. So for me, it's about rules and all of that. It has to be this way, and don't be a charlatan. And I kind of feel that that's my interpretation of what's going on with him interpersonally. But for me, I look at that and I say, what we're doing is really dangerous at a cultural level, to be able to step out there. And I know that I'm making that up, and I know that I've got stuff in the Wayback Machine that's informing that I can point to. So that's all I'm going to say about it.
Okay. So you got a very interesting set of cards as well. The first that came up for me, and I'm just going to dive into it. The meanings of the cards will become very clear as I speak, which is the beauty and the joy of intuitive work, is that as you speak it more reveals itself. I love it. We're starting with the Empress. Now, Empress energy, I love the Empress because classically she's portrayed as the eternal mother, takes the ideas, incubates them, births them into the world. She's often, you know, seen as this heavier, buxom woman. And there is also this fun underbelly of she got there some way. She didn't have an immaculate conception. Let's go there. And the Empress energy to me is saying, first and foremost, darling, I feel like the ancestral work is not meant to be direct, head-on, masculine energy. The ancestral work is more meant to be the feminine, healing, nurturing. And I don't think people understand that ancestral work, myself starting to delve into it myself. Ancestral work, I think in spirituality, we have this thing where we like, all right, we have to take it head on and it has to be, which works in a certain context. But at the same time, it's called ancestral healing, not ancestral warfare. And I feel like taking comfort right now in the healing, in the nurturing aspect of it. You're not doing it because you have unresolved karma that you want to deal with and burn off. You're doing it to heal yourself and to nurture your spirit. And I feel like what you are not saying, this comes up a lot for me in my card readings, but there are oftentimes I will say, so this is what you're saying, but what you're not saying. And I feel like what you're not saying is that we have this Three of Pentacles. This Three of Pentacles, you enjoy the work because it comes so naturally. Like once you found it, once you latched into it, once you realized what your spin is on it, you had a natural aptitude for it. I would not be surprised if after you go through what you're going through and heal the ancestral work you're healing, that you end up leading others on that same path because it's something you are naturally gifted at doing. And allowing yourself to acknowledge that, you know, rules, who am I to, you know, who was I to give a little background in myself and share a little story that this kind of hooks into. When I was still singing opera at the age of 20, I decided to go to the Metropolitan Opera regional auditions. There were 13 of us. I was one of the youngest singers there. 2 went forward to the national competition, and 2 took home basically awards that were incentive awards saying, keep going. Me being the youngest singer was one of those incentive awards. And I tell you, I felt some of the older singers try to burn me up with their glares. And it was like, well, who was I to outshine them? Well, who was I not to outshine them? It's because it's what I do. I'm naturally gifted in this realm. And I feel like part of the nurturing and the healing for you is acknowledging I am naturally gifted at this. I have a natural ability and natural aptitude in this. Now, into the next card, which is an interesting card to me, but I feel like this is some just advice. This is the Nine of Wands. This is the card of healthy boundaries. This is the card, and I feel like these boundaries, everything about this, especially with kicking off with the Empress, to me feels very internal. And I feel that the boundary is not you saying to everybody around you, you're allowed to do this, this is the line, this is where I'm willing to go, this is what I'm willing to compromise on, but it's actually allowing you to do it for yourself. My boundary with my ego, my boundary with my self-critic, my boundary with my inner cheerleader. And I feel like the Nine of Wands is saying, first and foremost, Toots, you've been through it. You have been through it. You have seen the battle, and you are here on the other side. You've got that wall built up. You've got that boundary built up. You've learned where you're willing to compromise and what you're not willing to compromise on. And that use that to your advantage. Use that to yourself, because once you dive into yourself and dive into your natural aptitudes and dive into your natural abilities to create what you want to create, that critic's going to come, inner and outer. That imposter syndrome critic is going to come and say, well, wait a minute, you've only been doing this for a year. You've only been doing this for a couple of months. Who are you to lead others along this way? But who are you not to? So what I really feel from you, darling, is first and foremost, giving yourself that nurturance that you need to know that the work you're doing is not always masculine, attacking, clearing up, burning off karma. It's also healing and nurturing, and you're doing it to nurture yourself.
Thank you for that. That feels spot on, because stepping into this place of compassion, like it doesn't have, the fight has already been won. You know, and it's time, you know, that is also speaking so much to, I have Mars in Cancer. So nurturance must be a battle.
Yeah.
Sometimes. And that is so spot on. Thank you for that.
Of course. It reminds me of that song from Sunset Boulevard, Surrender. Listen to it. It's when Norma Desmond, it's kind of a comical moment in the show where Norma Desmond's singing to her dead pet monkey. But if you listen to the songs, the lyrics of the song itself, no more wars to fight, white flags fly tonight, you are out of danger now, battlefield is still, wild poppies on the hill, I will see you when you surrender. It's this beautiful, tender moment where you see, first and foremost, yes, she's batshit crazy, but she also lost this companion who had been her companion for how long in her big old mansion, and she's singing this gorgeous, gorgeous, tender lullaby to a dead being, you know? So to me, that sounds to like that came through for me as, again, claircognizant. I speak in song lyrics and I speak in sometimes license plates. I see license plates that come through. But for me, that's a lot of just be in a mode of surrender when you're into this, and be in the mode to allow things to enter into your spirit so that you can allow it to grow and turn it into something powerful.
I feel like that was for both of us.
I feel like that was also for the collective. I mean, because, you know, I brought a collective conversation into this. So if you're tuning in and this and other conversations like that from collective stuff, this is for you. You know, it's for
Absolutely.
all of us. And being yourself is what you came to do. Creating in the most powerful, most empowered way that you have available to you is healing the collective. So it's for all of you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's what I love about my Instagram messages. I try to post daily Instagram 3-card readings. I'm consistent with it. I don't always do every day, but people tell me, how are you so accurate? How are you so accurate with what you do? And I say, you don't get that when I do that 3-card reading, that is as much for myself as it is for the people who follow me on Instagram. All that advice, everything that you're going through, I'm going through as well. And so I am giving myself that coaching, that comfort, that stern talking to, as much as you're receiving it. It's just as much for me as it is for everybody else.
You know, what's coming up for me is, you know, and you just spoke into it, it is all connected. The phrase that's coming up is playing with shadow. You know, eyeshadow can be something that you put on your face to cover up flaws, or it can be something that you choose to play with and have fun with to actually support you and expand. So that's what I'll finish with. What about
That's
you,
what
Nikki?
we're all doing. I totally agree. Like, it's good to have a healthy fear for something, of course, but when you're working on yourself, when you're afraid of what's behind that door, it's just going to hold you back. I know that's held me back a lot, and I think you spoke into that a lot with my reading too, of like, there are some things that I'm really afraid of that I do hold myself back from, and I get to remember that while we do work for other people and with other people, I get to keep doing the work for myself too. This was really like a great opportunity to like have a moment to like focus in on myself instead of focusing out on other people. So I
Yeah,
really
it's-
appreciate you coming and to spend time with us, Stella.
Well, thank you for your gifts and your clarity and for the work that you do. You know, I've known you for a long time and we've been through a lot of incarnations together. So, you know, Stella is no joke. She does her work.
Thank you. Thank you both for having me here. This has been a lot of fun. And thank you for giving what you give to the world and making astrology accessible. Not just accessible, but how do I incorporate it into my life so I can live my best, biggest, most glamorous life?
Absolutely.
So much appreciation.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the invite. It has been a magnificent time, and I'm looking forward to continuing this work in all modalities.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Where can, if people want to get a reading with you or want to book you for an event, where can they find you, Stella?
They can find me on Instagram at Queen of Glam Tarot. They can also find my website, queenofglamtarot.com. All my contact information is there as well. And that is the two main modes that I use. I'm on some of the other social medias, but I prefer those mediums because I like to keep my life, I'm working on keeping my life simple. So I stick to Instagram because I love pictures, and I stick to my website because I'm super proud of building that. And that's going to be the two.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Stella, for joining us. And thank you for your heart and your insight. We really appreciate you. And let's do this again. Let's, you know,
Yes, absolutely. Maybe we can do it at the beginning of the year and say, all right, what does 2022 have in style? Let's bring the stars and the cards and the tea and everything all together.
Sounds good. So look for that, kids, towards the beginning of the year.
Something else Stella did with us in the past is she did our Access Acknowledgement program.
It's a full class of creating an affirmation of your creative process through the lens of astrology. And it's only $3.69 for a full 2-hour lesson on taking you through your astrology and creating an affirmation of your sun sign, your moon sign, your ascendant, and your nodes.
We focus on the North Node and South Node particularly, so we can help you create a mission for your life based out of your vision for what you want to see in your life.
It's surprising what having a mission and understanding your comfort zone can do for your creative process. We talk about that a lot in this episode. So if you want to find out more about that, find us at activateyouraxis.com. We're AstroDivaz, and we'll see you at the next episode.
Thank you so much for stopping by. We really appreciate you.
We love you so much. Keep it light and keep doing the work.